You may feel confident going straight from your sketched wireframe to your final high-fidelity design. However, it's sometimes important that you have a middle stage that is a little cleaner to show clients, developers, or just for your own clarity when designing. Okay, we're going to get started with creating a digital wireframe for our diary application. The first thing you're going to need is a program called Sketch. This is available via the Mac App Store. Alternatively, you can use Photoshop or any other graphic editing software that allows you to export your files as PNG files, as we've spoken about previously. You don't have to use Sketch. All the stuff that we're going to be doing, you can use Photoshop or any other graphics editing software for. You can follow along really easily, but personally, I prefer and love Sketch at the moment. The second thing I'm going to use is a lovely Sketch add-on. It's a free downloadable by Tihan and Lax, which is iOS 7 GUI for Sketch. What this does is it saves you time on creating all the common UI elements that you see within iOS 7. Normally, you would have to pull together lots of different resources on the internet that would tell you the pixel value, i.e. the heights and widths of lots of different elements. To save you some time, you can simply use this set by Tihan and Lax to give you a good starting point for your app. The third thing I'm going to use is an icon set by Jory Raphael. It's called Junior by Symbolicons. It's a purchasable icon set. However, you can use anything that you have to hand or any of your favourite icon sets that you might already own. You don't have to use this specific set itself. These sets are all purchasable and I own them myself, but there's lots of free resources available online if you want to go off and find your own ones to use within the app itself. So, let's get started on creating a digital wireframe. So this is the file by Tihan and Lax. It creates all of the common UI elements that are found within iOS 7 for you. So it saves you some time in that you don't have to then look into what sizes these title bars are. They're 128 pixels high by standard, but what this allows you to do is simply copy and paste into your new app design. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create a new artboard. That's in the top right-hand corner of Sketch up here. I'm going to go ahead and click it. And in Sketch, it already has presets for the most popular screen sizes. So we already have portrait set. I'm going to go ahead and click portrait. And I'm just going to zoom out on this so that we can have a look at the entire canvas. If you're following along with Photoshop, all you have to do is create a new document at those pixel sizes, which is 640 by 1136. Here, the next thing I'm going to need to do is just actually click out of this artboard. So click anywhere outside so that you deselect this artboard, otherwise it won't actually let you put anything inside it for some reason. I'm going to go back to the Tihan and Lax iPhone sketch that we had a look at earlier. I'm going to copy this whole title bar into our new wireframe just by copy and paste. Simple Control-C, Control-V. I'm going to go ahead and shift this upwards. You can either use the shift and up arrow or you can do it with your mouse. I just prefer to do it like this so that I get a bit more control on it because I'm heavy-handed with my mouse. What we can then use this for is we can recolour it to whatever we need for our app. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of these extra chrome that we won't be needing. And I'm going to take this just to a simple grey colour. As it's a wireframe, I don't really want to get too bogged down in any form of colouring in the app. So I'm going to use just simple greys wherever I can. I'm going to get rid of this. We don't need that either. So referencing our previous sketch that we've done for the wireframes in the previous stage, I'm going to go ahead and use this as a basis for my digital wireframe. Now, my digital wireframes I do maybe a little differently and maybe a little cleaner than most people are used to. Some people like to use apps like Balsamiq or anything similar. Personally, when I've come to show those to clients, they've not been clean enough, and sometimes there's been issue over whether that will actually be what the app looks like, and I end up explaining that actually that's not what the app will end up looking like. So I tend to do my wireframes a little cleaner, but where I can, I remove extra graphical elements that are going to cause confusion or going to cause the client or whoever you're having to show these to ask more questions and get too bogged down in the actual graphic rather than the placement of these graphics. So throughout, what I'm going to do is if there's an icon, I normally would just put a circle. I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like to pull in the icons themselves. Depending on your client, you'll need to make that call, or depending on how you're going to use these wireframes yourself. Some people skip this stage entirely. If their wireframes on paper are really good, then sometimes people skip this stage entirely and go straight to high fidelity UI. But for the purposes of this course, I want to show you how to create a digital wireframe. This is going to be where our date for the diary application is. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in November 25th. And just put it into simple white. I'm going to take this size of that down slightly. That's over here in the text view of Sketch. I'm going to take this down to around 28 or 26. That's perfect. So the next thing I want to put in is a save button. In the top left-hand corner of Sketch, you'll see there's a text, an insert text layer. We're going to go ahead and click that, and roughly where we want the save button to end up, we just type and click out of it. Now, for any buttons within iOS 7, they've actually changed it so that they're more text links and not buttons themselves. So these text links need to be slightly larger and in Helvetica Neue Light, which is the typeface of iOS 7. I'm going to go ahead and align this, just simply using my mouse, to roughly the same place as where the heading of the date is on that one. The next thing I want to do is create a bar that has the month in it. There's a shape section in the top left-hand corner of Sketch. I'm going to go ahead and click that and use a rectangle. I'm going to put this rectangle, all you have to do is draw straight onto the canvas where you'd like that rectangle to be. And we're going to have roughly a height of maybe 70 pixels on that one. It automatically fills, which is over here on the right-hand side. We automatically assign a fill and a border to each of the shapes that you put within Sketch. I always click off of these borders. I don't want borders inside of it. And the fill for this is okay, but if you did want to change that, you simply click on it and you choose a different colour in this bottom section. If you want to go outside of these colours, you use this colour picker in the top section of this colour panel. And what you can do with that is simply drag anywhere in here to get the colouring that you want if it's outside of those colours. For this, you should be fine using any of these grayscales for the wireframe, but obviously when we come to doing the UI a little later on, you're going to want to use some custom colours in there. So I want to add a text label again to this top section, which is just simply the month that the thought comes under. So we're going to put November 2013. And we're going to move that into our title bar, and I'm going to change that. I'm using Command A to select everything within that piece of text. I'm going to change the colour to something darker, and I'm also going to go back and just take the size of this down so that it's roughly in the centre and a good size for that label. Now, Sketch has a really nice feature where if you select two things, so I'm going to go ahead and select the title bar, and I'm going to select the text by hitting Shift together with that background. In this top section, it has alignment panels. If you're used to using Photoshop, then you would be used to what these do. And what that does is actually automatically create the space that's in equal height and depth, top and bottom, of the asset that's inside it. It's probably easier if I just show you what it does. So you'll see that this is misaligned at the moment. There's more space at the top than there is at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and select those, again, Shift to select two of them, and I'm going to hit this button, which is Align Vertically, which should bring that dead centre of that element. So that gives it equal space top and bottom. You might have to use your eye to align that to the side, which we want to be just slightly off. You can also hit Alt, which will bring up this lovely panel, which if you're used to using Photoshop, this panel is a dream for UI designers. It brings up pixel values top, bottom, left and right of how far away from the edge of the canvas it is. For most iOS apps, they say the minimum that it should be is 20 pixels from the left or right-hand side. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that we're within that. So it nicely aligns. We know that that's now perfectly aligned in the middle, and we know that that's nicely aligned at the side. Again, for wireframing, you don't have to worry too much about this, but for later on, it's good to learn these techniques now.